Good day and welcome to another episode of Lunch and Learn. In this session, we will be discussing how to complete the J101 maintenance application form, which is quite a daunting procedure for most people. And we found that so many people struggle with the completion of the J101 form, the form that needs to be filled in order for you to lodge your first application at the maintenance court. Hi, I'm Eugene Opperman. I am a family law practitioner and an attorney, and as well as a mediator. I've been practicing for 23 years, specializing mostly in maintenance matters, domestic violence issues, as well as matters pertaining to children. Welcome to all our attendees. Like I said, today we will be discussing how to complete the J101 application form. If you have registered and then you would have received the link. On the link, you would find the live webinar, as well as some pre-reading material. That is just to give you context of what is going to be discussed today. And there is also a tab called Handout and Resources. Now, under this tab, you would find all the templates, all the examples, all the documents that we will be discussing during this session. We will put in that folder for you to download. Right, so let's just jump right into it. Let's see what are we going to discuss today. Today, we are discussing how to complete the J101 maintenance application form. So we will be discussing things like, where do you get the form? Will somebody at court be able to help you to explain the form and assist you in completing that form? We will also be addressing what would happen if you don't know the details of the other parent, or if there is, what to fill in certain portions. We'll go through step by step on the application form, how to fill it in, how to complete that. I will also make available to you a PDF document that would be found under the resources and the handout section, a PDF document that will explain step by step for you how to complete the J101 form. We will also be addressing critical issues like how much maintenance is payable, how do you calculate the amounts. This will obviously be discussed in much detail in further webinars. And then how the expenses should be worked out and be added on to the maintenance application form. Right, so let's start off with our discussion with the maintenance applications in general. So what is the crux of the whole matter? And the crux of the whole matter is that the Maintenance Act that we have is at this stage the most important instrument of enforcement of maintenance in terms of the South African law. So we deal exclusively with a Maintenance Act. The Maintenance Act is quite a comprehensive act. It's one of the best written legislation that we have. I've been on panels of the UK, of Scotland. I've been on the Australian panel as well, discussing maintenance issues. And all in all, our South African legislation pertaining to child maintenance is not a bad piece of legislation. It is well written. It is not always practically enforceable, but it is a well-written piece of legislation. However, the implementation thereof sometimes might seem problematic. And we see that quite often in courts where people are being frustrated. Claimants are being frustrated regarding this whole process of claiming maintenance because, number one, they do not know how to do that. They don't know the process. They do not know the legislation. And this was actually recognized in 2002 in the matter of Ballantyne versus Ballantyne. It was an unreported Supreme Court of Appeal, Constitutional Court matter, where the court found that despite the good intentions embodied in the Maintenance Act, logistical difficulties in the maintenance courts mean that the maintenance system does not function effectively. So it was already said in 2002, when this judgment was handed down, that the maintenance system is not functioning properly. And the basis of the whole maintenance structure starts off with a J101 form. That is the foundation of the first line that you have to cross in order to get maintenance or to apply for maintenance. The court in the Ballantyne case further said that it is the function of the state not only to provide a good legal framework, but to put in place systems that will enable these frameworks to operate effectively. Sad to say that ever since 2002, when this judgment was handed down, not much has been happening in terms of the Maintenance Act. Very little proposals as to changes has been coming forth. The South African Law Reform Commission has instituted a panel and discussions on amendments to the Maintenance Act. I was fortunate enough to be part of that process, but it is still long off. It is still a long way for all these amendments to come into effect. I have done a survey on my Facebook group called Child Maintenance in South Africa, and it was specifically pertaining to how people perceive, how people react when they are confronted with a J101 form. Now, the J101 form is a prescribed form by the Department of Justice, and that is the first line, like I said. That is the first response. You have to fill in that form in order to start the process of claiming maintenance. I also have a problem with the wording of claiming maintenance or application for maintenance. I don't see it as an application for maintenance. It should rather read a request for the court's involvement to enforce the common law duty of support by the father. So if you look at the stats, 72%, and this was done on my Facebook group, and there was quite a number of people that responded, and 72% of the people that responded said that the form, the J101 form, is very much confusing. They found it extremely confusing and absolutely not user-friendly because there were no clear indications or instructions on how to complete that form. 54% of the people that completed the survey said that the court actually assisted them to complete the form. And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes' time. 17% said that the form was straightforward to complete. 63% of the participants to the survey said that the court gave them the form without any explanation on how to complete that. Shockingly, 19%, 19 out of 100 people said that the form was much too complicated. So they did simply not complete the form. They simply gave up and no application for maintenance was made. Strange enough, only 5% of the people said that the form was not in a language that was clearly understood by them. So so obviously there's a couple of difficulties that the people experience. It's complicated. Number one, it's not in a logical order. The wording is sometimes very confusing to the layperson. They talk about fixed assets. Most of the people would not know that fixed assets actually means that that's simply your house. Obviously, there's no clear indication or instruction on how to complete the form. Sometimes the copies that are available at court are simply just dumped at the security in front before you even enter the court building. And sometimes these copies are very faint and incomplete. Many of the members of my Facebook group and the people in the survey complained that there was absolutely little or no assistance from courts in completing these forms. One complaint that was also raised was that there was no possibility for online submissions. And this is something that we've taken up with the South African Law Reform Commission. Most of the people said that these forms were overwhelming and it's only available in Afrikaans and English. And basically all of the people agreed that the major cause of delays in maintenance matters is the incorrect completion of the J101 form. I want to refer you to a comment on a Facebook group, a sister group of ours, and that was quite interesting. It is a lady, a complainant that attended a court in Mitchells Plain, and she says the following: I went to the Mitchells Plain Maintenance Court to file. I stood in line for 3 hours. I was there before 7 to be told that I won't be helped. They only take 50 new applications and I must come back tomorrow. I took off from work to do this and I must take off again. I'm livid at the poor and disrespectful service. I spoke to the maintenance officer and was still told to just come back tomorrow. Does everyone in the group have a contact detail, email address, or just help for this person? I'm so disgusted. What I've done then is I compiled a little survey of my own, And I contacted about 4 or 5 magistrates, maintenance officers in our region. And I spoke to the maintenance officer and I asked them, how long does it take on average for you to complete and assist a complainant to complete the J101 form? Shockingly, on average, they told me that it took about 42 minutes if they had to complete and assist each and every individual complainant to complete the form. So if one takes 8 hours work per day and you deduct about 30 minutes for lunch, it means that there's workable hours of about 450 minutes per day. If you divide that by the 42 minutes it takes for a maintenance clerk or maintenance officer to assist with a detailed completion of the J101 form, they would only have chance or time to do 12 applications per day. So it makes perfectly sense. So where do you get the application form? Obviously, like I said, at the closest magistrate court where you work or where you live, because all magistrate courts are considered to be maintenance courts. So you can find those forms, the J101 maintenance application form, you can find it each and every court. You can simply just ask for it and they'll give you a copy of that form. You can also, just to save time, spare yourself the trip to the maintenance office or the maintenance court. You can download the application form from the DOJ website, or you can simply just Google J101 and Google will bring up the form that you can download. Site of child maintenance called childmaintenance.org.za. There on the right-hand side, you'll find a portion which includes public library, and you will find the documents there where you can simply download that for your own pleasure and for your own use. You can also join a Facebook support group, something like our group called Child Maintenance South Africa, and there you would find the documents as well. So the next question would be, will someone at the maintenance court be able to explain the form to me or assist me in completing the form? So the DOJ has what they call the Codified Instructions Code family called maintenance. We basically refer that as the DOJ Code 26 of 2015. That is basically a policy document issued by all the DOJ personnel, instruction to them on how they should conduct certain issues pertaining to family courts and maintenance matters. And I refer you to section 15.2 of this DOJ Code 26 of 2015, where it actually clearly states that the clerk of the maintenance court it is compulsory, not may, or if she wants to, must assist the complainant to set out the realistic needs of the child or the applicant. That basically means that the maintenance clerk needs to assist you in order to complete this form. Bear in mind that the form needs to be completed as per the DOJ code in black ink, and it also needs to be filled in triplicate, so in 3 folds. You need to have 1 copy and 2 copies, 1 original and 2 copies that you need to submit to court as well. Usually what happens is that only 1 copy is made or only 1 is presented to court, and then the maintenance clerk would make 2 copies thereof for service upon the respondent. So what happens if I do not have all the details on that form? And most importantly, it's the details of the father, his work and his home address. So what happens there? What is your recourse if you do not have that available? I've been privy to some dealings with a tracing agency that deals exclusively with tracing of baby daddies, and most often they are being requested that they should find a person called Sipu. Now, if you give them the details, you know what, I don't know where he works or what is his address or even what's his ID number, but his name is Sipu. Do you know how many Sipus are there right there now in South Africa that has been born? It is impossible for those people to trace that. So there's a responsibility upon you to at least get some details for them to assist you. Obviously, in terms of Section 7.2 of the Maintenance Act, there is provision that the maintenance investigator, upon instruction from the maintenance officer, could assist you in finding the details of the father. Section 7.2 states that a maintenance investigator shall, subject to the directions and control or instructions of the maintenance officer, locate the whereabouts of persons required to appear before the magistrate or needs to be at a maintenance inquiry. The tools that the maintenance investigator has is basically the access to a couple of databases and information systems like the ITC credit report. They can actually get the credit report of the father or of the respondent to see where he has made some debt, where is his furniture accounts, and then they can, if they do their job properly, they can actually ask those furniture or retail stores for a copy of the credit application, and then to see what details have they given or provided for the credit provider. That might contain valuable information, specifically if they have to divulge their income. That's very important. That could be to your benefit. So you can actually ask the maintenance officer to assist and ask the maintenance investigator to assist and help you with that. The maintenance investigator also has the facility to issue a subpoena to all the 5 major banks to ask them to provide banking statements of the respondent or the father. The maintenance investigator also has access to the Windeed system, where they can establish if the father or the respondent has any fixed property, which means that is any houses and or flats or any property registered on his name. Most importantly, there's also the facility that they can trace a vehicle registration number. If you've got the vehicle registration number, then the maintenance investigator could use the eNatus system in order to track the father down, or at least get the last registered address. The next question that pops up quite often is that what if the children lives with a caregiver, such as a grandparent, and you want to claim maintenance? And one has to turn to the Children's Act in order to answer this. And first of all, let's look at what the Act says is a caregiver. A caregiver means any person other than the parent or the guardian who factually cares for the child and includes a foster parent or a person who cares for a child with implied or express consent, the permission of the parent, or a person who cares for the child whilst the child is in temporary safe care. So that would include grandparents, because that is a person that would care for that child with implied or express permission of the parent or the guardian. So what does care mean? Care means basically in relation to a child, it means that that person or the grandparent would give them a suitable place to live, or they would make the living conditions conducive to the child's health, well-being, and development. And they would also offer the necessary financial support. So yes, the answer it would be yes. If the children are living with the grandparents, then surely there could be maintenance claimed on behalf of them. So let's just move a little bit further, and I'm going to refer to certain sections of the application form. So how do I complete the section that alleges that the other person is legally liable to maintain the child? Obviously, we know and we see in terms of Section 6 of the Act says that only the person that is liable to maintain a child is responsible for child maintenance. So there should be a link between the child and the person responsible for paying maintenance. Section 2 of the Maintenance Act says that the provisions of this Act, which is the Maintenance Act, shall apply in respect of the legal duty of any person to maintain any other person, irrespective of the nature of the relationship between those arising to that duty. That basically, in a load of mumbo jumbo and legal jargon, basically means that there should be a relationship. There should be a relationship between the child and the father, the person liable to pay maintenance. And it is basically stemmed from the common law duty of support. So what would happen is in that section, section number 2, where it says the defendant is legally liable to maintain me because, or to maintain, well, me or the child, because you could include that he is the natural father and he's not paying maintenance, or whatever the case might be. But we will come to that in a couple of seconds. So the next question is simply, and we see that so often where people just ask, I'm asked, how much do I want for maintenance? How do I calculate the amount? First of all, it's not how much you want for maintenance. The amount that you want for maintenance is irrelevant. It is what the child needs. And we should change our narrative to speak about, what the needs of the child, as opposed to what you want. Because if you go to court and you say, I want this, it would basically mean that the father might become resentful and see that as a resent payment. But if you change your narrative around and say, but it is for the interest of the child, so this is what the child needs, then that might be completely different. Now we can go back, or we can start off with the J101 form, a detailed explanation on how to complete the form. And there is the form. This is what it looks like. You can basically see, if I can just get to that screen, you can see that the J101 form is a marked form. It is a DOJ form issued by the Department of Justice, and you'll see that at the top right-hand corner. So let's just run through this form. It is basically a couple of sections, and we'll go through them step by step. Now, this document I've compiled is an explanation of how this form should be filled in, how this form should be completed. This is available under the resource section of the link that you have, and you can download that. And I suggest that you print it out and use this as a reference guide to complete the form. You'll also see that there's a circle drawn around it, and you'll see it mentions C comment 2, C comment 3, and so forth. And underneath, you will find all the comments on how to complete that. And we'll simply run through them one by one so that you know in detail how to complete the form. First of all, there's a reference number at the top right. This is your maintenance file reference number. It will usually start with the wordings MA. You leave that empty. The clerk of the court, upon registration of the new case or the new matter, will give you an MA number, which the maintenance clerk will fill in this portion. Now, this is the reference number that you use on all future correspondence. If you need to find your file, if you need to go and collect something on your court file, then you quote that number and they can simply go to the archives and they can find that. Straightforward. Comment number 1. This is your full name as displayed in your identity document. Quite simple. You are called the complainant in this matter. And on this section here, comment number 2, this is the date that you were born. And you start off by using 2 digits for the date, then 2 digits for the month, and then 2 digits for the current year. You can also fill in your age there, and here your ID number should be completed in detail. It's always good to have a copy of your ID as well, a copy of your ID document ready. You can attach that to the form. Living at number 4, there you can see that is basically where you are living, your current address where you are living. Now, the courts use this to see that they have jurisdiction, because you can complete the form and you can submit to court your application for maintenance in any of the following jurisdictions: where you live, where you work, where you carry on business, or where the child lives. So that's also important why you have to complete the next section where it says working at, and you simply state the name of your current employer, the details thereof, and the address of the employer. If you are employed, if you're not employed, you can leave that portion empty, or you can simply just write there, not employed. Important is also to note that you have to include your telephone number should the maintenance officer or the maintenance investigator need to get hold of you. Then they will use this form in order to get your contact details. So you just fill in your contact details, your cell number. If you have a home number, you can fill that in. It might be also advisable, I've seen that in practice quite often, that you just put somebody else's number there as an extra. So if they cannot find you, that they at least have somebody else that they can phone and say, but you know what, speak to her and I'll give her the message for you to contact the court. If you are employed, then you can fill in your telephone number of the employer on that side. Like I said, it's fairly straightforward. So far, so good. It's fairly straightforward with a detailed explanation of everything on the comments. Turning to the next page there, right, the next page says that is the police station. That is the police station where you reside. It's the police station in the area or the suburb closest to you where you are living. And then you declare that the other person. Now, comment number 2 says he is the defendant, or in the new forms, it will probably read the respondent, because it's not basically technically correct to call him a defendant. It should be a respondent, but be that as it may, at this stage, the forms still read defendant. The full name here is the name of the father. Use the full, complete name of the father. Just don't put the SIPO and you don't know the rest, because the maintenance investigator will definitely not find a SIPO on these requirements. If you have his date of birth or his birthday, yes, you probably could find something like that. Phone friends and family, find out when is his birthday, because they can use that as well for tracing if you do not have that. But the date of birth should be included here. Or if you are in the fortunate position that you have his ID number, you can complete the ID number there. The address under here, you can see in section comment number 5, that is the address of the father, where he is living currently, his place of residence. So most courts, or most delays at court happens when you have the incorrect address. Because remember now, the court documents needs to be served, needs to be issued, and needs to be served on the respondent, on the father. So if you use, or you include here, you have the wrong address, then it might mean that your case will be endlessly postponed in order to trace that person, or to trace the father. So make sure that you've got the correct home address. Same goes for the working address. If you know where the father works, then you include all the details there. Put as much detail as you can there, the department where he works, the telephone number obviously needs to be included there. So you can see section comment number 8. All those details. What you can also do under comment number 7, the contact details of the father, you can include all the details, all the telephone numbers that you have of him. Even if it's old cell numbers, they will be able to trace via the RICA system. They might be able to trace the whereabouts of where that was registered. So include all the details there. If you have got more, an aunt, an uncle, his father, his auntie, his cousin, you know what, put all the telephone numbers that you have available, you can put there. The next portion, comment number 9, would include, you know what is the closest police station where he lives. If you don't know where he lives, obviously you cannot include where it is. So a simple Google search will tell you, or you would know, what is the closest police station where he lives. Once again, with regard to the comments, these comments are all numbered, and you can simply just refer to, say, for example, comment number 9. You can just check there what is number 9, and then you will see the instructions on how to complete that. Easy as that. Now we come to the other portion that we briefly discussed on the previous couple of slides. Now, section number 2 here, the defendant is legally liable to maintain me because. Now, here you state the reason why you are claiming maintenance. For example, you know what, he's the father, he's the children's father, and he stopped paying maintenance after the divorce, or in many cases, you just state that the father has never contributed any maintenance to the child. The section below that speaks to the care, and that is just the reason why the children for whom you are claiming maintenance is in your care. For example, you are the primary caregiver, and you look after the children, and you know what, the children is living with you and not with the father because you can't find the father, or he's never been available to pay maintenance. Section number 3 says, okay, right, defendant has not supported myself or the children since, and there you put in the date, the actual date that he stopped making any payments. So if you previously made payments without a court order, then you can include the date there. Or you can simply leave that date, you can leave that open and says he has made no contribution to maintenance, or he has made certain contributions to maintenance. So if he made any contributions to maintenance during the course before the maintenance order or this maintenance application has gone to court, then you simply state that, yeah, he's given me 500 Rand for this or 200 Rand for that. You can include that there. Again, there's the comments, quite self-explanatory. Now we come to the section number 4. Now, section number 4 is extremely confusing because there it says that you want or you request that the defendant, you request the maintenance officer and you request the court that an order be made for payment of maintenance. And then they ask you what is the amount. And this is quite confusing. This is very confusing because before you've even completed any documentation, the first question that they ask you is, how much do you want for maintenance? And that is so totally wrong because you haven't even established what the needs of the children are. It's like going to Pick and Pay, going with a whole trolley of groceries, standing at the till, and then they tell you, okay, right, you know what, pay the amount. Pay the amount of groceries that you have in your trolley. And you would say, but you know what, I don't know what's the total thereof. So this is what's happening. And that's why I said that the forms are quite confusing and it does not follow chronologically to make sense. So our suggestion would be is to leave section 4 out. Leave section 4 empty for now, and we will come back to that section right at the end of the application form, and then we can complete that. And I'll make reference to that, and I'll remind you later once we get to the end of the form. Now we come to the portion that needs to be filled in. That's your details, and there you fill in your fixed property. Like I said, fixed property is any property that you have. You only fill this portion in if you own your house, not if you're renting. So if you do not own, if you do not have a title deed or a bond, then you do not fill that in. Next would be investments. You can register, you can note there, or you can put the amount there of all the investments that you have at any of the financial institutions. Now, this could be investment policies at Old Mutual, Seldom, and so forth. You can include those amounts there. Remember that you have to have substantiary proof. You have to have proof of everything. So if you mark there that you have fixed property, my suggestion would be that you have a copy of your latest bond statement, or if you do have investments with any of the financial institutions, that you have copies thereof available. Make copies thereof and include that with your supporting documentation as well. If you have a savings account, yes, at Capitec or at Standard Bank or any of those banks, a copy of your banking statement as well. And this is usually what they refer to. They need at least 3 months banking statements. And that is just to see if you have any form of savings. If you have any shares in companies, then you can state that there. That is quite self-explanatory. You can just read the comments, as well as motor vehicles. If you have a motor vehicle, then yeah, in that portion, they state the total market value of all the motor vehicles that you have. That might also include things like motorbikes, trailers, or any other roadworthy vessel that you possess or that is in your possession that you are the owner of. In this portion here, that is seldom completed. Any other, yes, if you have any other valuable items such as expensive jewelry and so forth, you can include that in that portion there. Next, we come to your income. Now, this is quite self-explanatory. If you do not earn an income, if you do not have any employment, then obviously you do not need to fill this in. But if you are in a fortunate position to have a fixed job or a permanent employed or permanently employed, then a copy of your payslip would contain all of these details. This would include your gross salary. Obviously, you only fill that in if you are employed. That is your salary before deductions. If they deduct tax, yes, state the total amount of tax deducted monthly from your salary, of which they pay over to the SARS each and every month. If you're on a medical aid, you state your total contribution towards medical aid in that portion. Again, self-explanatory, comment C, comment number 3. Pension fund, yes, if you have a pension fund, a provident fund, or any other form of retirement fund contribution, then you fill that in under the pension section. The other portion there, that is with regards to deductions. That is all things that will be deducted from your salary. So there you state any major or important monthly deductions from your salary. For example, what you pay towards a bargaining council or group life insurance, or any garnishing orders that you might have, judgments against your name, you include there as well. In order that has been deducted from your salary, and then your total net salary would mean that is the actual amount that gets paid over to you per month. That's cash in hand. That's the money that you get. Another portion here, other incomes. If you have any other additional income, such as rent, if you rent out a portion of your house, then that needs to be completed there. All the income that you derive from dividends, interest, even your grant or SASSA money, if you have that, you can fill that in there, just in order to give a clear picture to the court of your financial situation. Let's move forward. Now we come to the expenditure part, and this is the most important section of your whole application form, and so many people have difficulty in completing this section. So in order for you to prepare you for court, it is suggested that you make copies of all your expenses. Like I said in the previous webinar, it's not necessary for you to keep slips of each and everything. Do not rock up at the maintenance officer's office with a whole box of slips, because they will definitely not entertain that. But as far as possible, have proof of all your expenses ready. On our next webinar, we will be discussing how to split it between yourself and the children, because that is quite a difficult exercise. That's why we are only for now trying to fill in the total amount, the amount and the total of your expenses. Like, I'm just going to repeat that. In the next webinar, we will deal with the child's portion, how to work out the child's portion, as most of the problems that we encounter is the splitting of the calculation in detail between self and children. But for now, let's just go through the list, and I suggest that you fill this total, you fill that amount in. That is our aim for now. So let's start off with, I can just briefly mention that there's no fixed formula in South Africa, in terms of South African law, to calculate these amounts. However, we do use the principles of a good versus a good and something versus free as guidance, but this will obviously be discussed in the next webinar. So there's no fixed formula on how to split those amounts between self and the child, but we will be discussing that in the next webinar in extreme detail for you to do. But for now, we are only working with the total column. First of all, you have to distinguish between what is direct cost, what is the cost that is only incurred for the children, and what is shared cost. Obviously, direct cost would be things like school fees. School fees are not shared costs. School fees are direct costs just for the child, that you have to distinguish between the shared cost. For example, if you have lodging, that is like in where you live, might just move down to the next one here, where we have the examples. We'll go with that. Yes, comment number 1. Right. So lodging, now we work with the expense area. Lodging, this is the total amount that you pay for your accommodation on a monthly basis. So everything here is worked out on a monthly basis. Whether it is a bond repayment or it's rent, you put there that under the total amount, you put the amount that you pay towards a bond or rent per month. Later on, we'll split the total amount between self and children, which will be explained in the next webinar. Groceries, yes, that's also a shared expense. With other words, you share that between yourself and the children. So you need to establish what amount is needed for groceries, food, personal care, and so forth. Like I explained in the previous webinar, it might be a good idea to, if you do not have physical slips or an Excel spreadsheet with all these details, to make a shopping list on Pick and Pay or one of these retailers to give an estimate to court. This is what you use, or what you need for groceries per month. Next would be a portion called household expenditure, which is quite self-explanatory. That is all the expenses that is directly linked to your residence. That includes expenses such as electricity, rates and taxes, armed response. That could also be important, if you have ADT, internet, laundry. Those are all things that pertains to where you live. That's household expenses, and that's also shared cost. But you can put in the total in the total column. So say, for instance, you make use of garden services, then get a slip or get a invoice from the garden services people to say, right, this is what you're paying per month, and you include that there. Rates and taxes as well, that's quite simple. Attached to this application form as proof of your rates and taxes, you include a copy of your rates and taxes statement. Clothing, yes, which is also quite explanatory. It includes all clothing, underwear, school clothing, sport clothing, all those type of clothing that you need to include there. Again, if you have an account at a shop that sells clothing, then you can include that as proof thereof as well. Again, it's all self-explanatory, and in terms of the comments, which is linked to the application form. Transport. Next, we come to transport. If you make use of public transport or a lift club or something like that, then you have to provide your monthly contribution to these transportation fees, which is quite obviously. If you work somewhere else and you have to drive by taxi, the taxi does not necessarily give you a slip, but you can ask the taxi, can you just write down, what the kilometers, and this is more of the estimate. The courts are quite lenient when it comes to this, but as far as possible, have proof thereof. If you are in the fortunate position that you have a car or vehicle, yes, if you pay installments on that or insurance, then you can include that as well as the portion. You write the total amount there. Just remember to have a copy of your vehicle financing document ready there as well. Maintenance for the vehicle, we come with interesting things. One always forgets about service of the motor vehicle. So I would suggest that you get a quote, or you look in your previous documents, what amount that you spent on the services of a motor vehicle. Say, for instance, you spend 1,000 Rand every year on that. Then you include that amount, but you don't include the full amount of 1,000 Rand in the total column. You divide that by the 12 months, because remember now, you want to include the monthly expenses. So if your yearly cost for service is 1,000 Rand for the service of a motor vehicle, then you divide that by 12 in order to get a monthly payment. Same goes for fuel. If you have fuel and you throw in fuel and you use your debit card or your credit card, obviously that would reflect on your banking statements in order to give a fair indication of how much fuel you use. You simply use that amount and you fill that in the total columns. Licenses, yes, remember license fees for a motor vehicle, you have to renew that each and every year. Calculate that amount. It's usually about 500-600 Rand, depending on the type of vehicle that you drive, and that needs to be divided by 12 in order to get that amount. Same goes for parking. Then we come to school expenses, quite self-explanatory. School fees. Get a letter from the school. Ask them what is the total cost of the school fees for the year. Again, if you have that letter with you as proof, then divide that by 12 in order to get your monthly amount that you would spend on the school fees. That would also include school fees like creche fees, aftercare fees, school books, stationery, outings, sports, and other school expenditure that the child might incur. Now, this would be considered to be direct costs, because that is not shared cost. And we will discuss that in the next webinar in quite some detail. Same goes for medical expenditure, because that's medical expenditure for the child. If the child visits the doctor or dentist, if the child is a sick person or a sickly child and they need special care, then get a letter from the clinic, get a letter from the doctor stating what is the condition, and what type of medication you need on an ongoing basis. That needs fall into the total column. Remember to have proof thereof ready. Any other medical expenditure, if you have to buy over-the-counter medicine, such as things for flu, cold and flu and stuff like that, if it's on your banking statement, remember just to highlight that, to say that that was other medical expenditure, because you can claim that on a monthly basis. So if you use that, use it on an average. You say, for instance, you spend 500 Rand per year, then you divide that by 12 in order to get a monthly estimate of what you would use. Next portion is insurance. If you have life insurance, you can actually put a copy thereof of the life insurance policy. You can put that there, put the total amount, you can put it on there, on that section. If you have a retirement annuity, then you need to include that as well. Or if you need to pay homeowners insurance, then you need to include that in that portion as well. That would also it's not something like your levy, but that is usually the insurance portion if you are an owner of a house. Pocket money, that's quite self-explanatory. That's why I marked across there. That is a direct expense for the child. So obviously, mom does not get any pocket money. It's only for the child. But that's self-explanatory down below in the comment section. Holidays and entertainment, or if you are used to go on holiday once a year, and it would probably cost you 1,000 or 2,000 Rand. You go to visit the family in the Eastern Cape or wherever, then divide that amount, your transport cost, your accommodation cost, divide that by 12 in order to get a monthly amount that you can put there. Also for recreation, if you have Mnet decoder, if you've got Showmax, if you have Netflix, that amount, the total amount also gets put down in the totals columns on the right-hand side. Section 11 is quite interesting. That is the maintenance or the replacement and repair of items. One should remember that, you know what, you cannot sleep on blankets and on linen forever. So that needs to be replaced. Kitchen utensils such as a kettle or a clothing iron, you know what, those things break down and that needs to get replaced. And very so often, those things are forgotten. We do not include those as part of your provision or your budget for the year ahead. So if you replace your linen every 2 years and it works out to 1,000 Rand, then you divide that by, and that, well, like I said, for every 2 years, then you divide that by 24 to get a monthly amount as a replacement of linen or towels or whatever the case might be. Same with kitchenware. You know what, if you have a steam pot and the cost of the steam pot, the lifespan of the steam pot would be 5 years and you have to replace it in 5 years' time, then yes, divide it by 5 years in order to get a monthly amount payable towards maintenance. Personal loans, yes, obviously that would also be a direct cost for the mother alone, unless the amount that you loaned was used or utilized to cover some of the household expenses and the expenses in general for the child as well. Otherwise, this will be for your account only, and there would be no need for you to split that between the child. Security alarm system, yes, that's quite self-explanatory. If you do have a home and you have this alarm system, that could be deducted. That would be a shared cost. Any membership fees, any religious contributions or charities that you can fill in there. Gifts, if there's any gifts, birthday gifts, gifts for special occasions, that could also be split between you and the child. But calculate what would you use, how much money would you contribute towards gift per month, and you can include an average total thereof in the total portion on the right-hand side. Same goes for TV license. Nowadays, for those people that's still paying TV licenses, if you pay it on a monthly basis, include that amount there. Reading material, nowadays, we don't use books and newspapers that often. That might include things like, ebooks or something like that you could include there. I've not seen many people complete that section. If you have any lease agreements or credit agreements for furniture, appliances, or other credit agreements, like in clothing accounts, you need to fill in the complete details there. Once again, if you have any of those type of accounts, then you need to have proof thereof. So I would suggest that you take your latest statement thereof and include this for this purposes of completing this form. The next portion is pets. Yes, if the father gave the little boy a puppy for his birthday and so forth, then surely the father needs to contribute towards food of the pet. I've had a case where the father point blank refused. He gave the son a puppy and he refused to pay anything, any contribution, and we had a massive fight. He would not pay any contribution to the food of the pet because he said that he's not the biological father of the pet or the dog. I just laughed and the magistrate laughed, and at the end of the day, he was ordered to make a contribution towards pet food. So obviously, yes, if you take the pet, the dog to the vet, and you incur expenses such as inoculations and what the normal yearly injections that they get, divide that by 12 in order to get an amount there as well. The licensing of pets, that's not being dealt with anymore in terms of the municipal ordinances. Then we come to the last portion where it says other not specified above. That is basically any additional expenses which you feel that is relevant or to the benefit of your children, and that you can fill in the total column. Obviously, have your proof thereof ready. Now we come to this portion here where it needs to be dated, and then this portion here, you have to sign this document in front of a commissioner of oaths, such as the police or an attorney or someone that is allowed to commission these type of documents. So do not sign this document now, because you have to swear by the truth thereof in front of a police officer. So don't sign this form as of yet. Right, this portion here where it says, that's the right at the end of the form where it says official use. This you can just simply leave out, because this is the oath that would be administered for you to sign the document. Right. So now we can go back. Now we can go back to the first column, because let me just go up again. This is an important portion where it says total expenditure. So what you have to do now is all 21 sections that you've included the total, write the total expenditure, calculate those, all expenses, calculate, add them up, and put the total amount, put it there. And that would give you an estimate of what is needed, not what you want, what is needed for you and the children to have, or in order to sustain your living. So very importantly, I suggest that you go back and that you scrutinize everything, and that you calculate and you add all these totals of everything that you've completed. You add those up once or twice. Just make certain. I usually go 2 or 3 times and I calculate all of these so that we know that it is correct. Because remember, now you're going to sign this and you're going to swear to the truth thereof. So make sure that that total expenditure here is filled in correctly. If you can go down, yes. Now we come back. Remember, we left out the portion number 4. And this is the portion that needs to be filled in last. Before we get to this portion, we need to split the amounts between the self and the children, and that will be dealt with in the next webinar. If we can go down, let me just explain that next portion to you. There you go. Because there are so many people have difficulties with completing this section, how to calculate the parents' contribution or the parents' portion thereof. This will be dealt with in the next webinar. So this will be dealt with next time. So we're not getting into detail. So your homework for now would be to include this, to complete this form, and to complete the total section of your monthly expenses. Right, so we are still back, and we are still with the J101 form. Okay, now the next one would be is, can I claim winter, summer, and Christmas clothes as part of the order? And the answer to that would be simply yes, you could. Yes, you could. In the portion, right, let me just make that screen a little bit bigger. In this portion here, where it says other, you simply say, yes, you want winter clothes, and the father needs to make a contribution of 500 Rand or 200 Rand and whatnot. That is the amount that you want for winter clothes, summer clothes, and Christmas clothes. Remember to include that there, because as we explain now, is that if it is not included, if the winter and summer clothes are not included, you cannot insist thereon. You have to pay them for the winter and the summer clothes from your maintenance that you get. And the remedy for you would be to go to court. After this order has been granted, you have to go back to court and then ask them to vary the court order to make an increase and to include that, the winter and the summer clothes. And only once the order is changed, you can report it to the court if he does not buy that. If it was indeed included in the order, in the court order, then you can insist that he buys the winter and summer clothes because it's part of the court order. If he is not paying that, then he would be in breach of the court order, and you have to report that to court, and they will take it further. My suggestion would be that to request the court to make an order for winter or summer clothes to the value of a specific amount. Don't just say, you know what, you want winter clothes, you want summer clothes. No. Say you want winter clothes or Christmas clothes, which needs to be paid on a certain date and to a certain amount, so that there is no confusion as what amount needs to be paid. So yes, like I said, how do we split the expenses between yourself and the children? We're running out of time. We're already just about an hour. It is a discretionary approach. There is not a fixed formula, but we use the principles of a good versus a good, as well as the principles of seldom versus fourie. That is what we use, but that will be discussed in the next webinar. Just to put everyone on the same page, this is where we are in the process. We are still in the complaint phase. We have not been dealing with the maintenance officer. We are still busy compiling all the documents in order to submit that to court. So we're still right in the beginning phase. We're getting there. We're moving slowly towards what is happening in the Section 6 inquiry and the dealings at the Office of the Maintenance Officer and or in terms of Section 10 of the Maintenance Court. But we'll get to that in the next webinars. And yes, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. It's been quite technical. It's been quite strenuous. But that is a detailed explanation of how to fill in the J101 form in order just for you to get the totals correctly, so that in the next webinar, you would have all those totals ready. And then we can explain to you how to split it between yourself and the child. And then in the next webinar, to split that and to how to work out the parent's contribution towards maintenance. I thank you for listening and bearing with me all of this time. It has been quite fun. We do this. We are planning another probably 50 or 49 of these webinars, pre-webinars every Wednesday, dealing with maintenance matters. And you are most welcome to register and to join on our website at www.alleges.org.za. If there is any questions or any queries, please get hold of us. Let us know how we can assist. Your comments, your feedback, that would be highly appreciated. Drop us a mail at info@alleges.org.za. This is Eugene Opperman for Lunch and Learn. I'm a qualified and specialized attorney specializing in maintenance matters, domestic violence, mediation, and as well as issues pertaining to child maintenance. Thank you so much for joining. We see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good day.